Thank you again to our panel, and I have asked them to sit in the order, and they're going to introduce themselves and tell them a little bit about their career as well. So we're going to try to expedite this process as well. So I'll turn it over first to Diane.
Hi, my name is Diane DeBruno. Thank you, Linda, for inviting me to speak today. This has been a great conference. I work for the FDA, Food and Drug Administration. I have been there for 29 years, and during that time, I had 4 different positions. And I have to say, I had the most amazing career, and I continue to have the most amazing career. I love what I do, and to say that I look forward to going to work every day, I think that's a blessing, really. And it's been very interesting. So I can tell you, I started off right out of college. I went to college for biology. And right out of college, I was lucky enough from a job fair to be hired by FDA as an investigator. And so I was in New Jersey. I did inspections for 10 years of like pharmaceuticals and medical devices. Learned a lot, loved it, but had this goal of being a product reviewer, which eventually I became a product reviewer in the year 2000. I was there for 14 years. I unfortunately left that office because there was a lot of misogyny and it was very male-centric, and women we weren't getting ahead. And a lot of us hit that glass ceiling and we just couldn't crack it. So I left. Then I came back to another office. So when I left, I went to be a manager of foodborne illness outbreaks response, which was also very fascinating, but managing was not for me. I really want to do the science. So I went back. I'm now in the office of tissues and advanced therapies, where doing product approvals for just amazing stuff. And I know a lot of this sounds like the Frankenstein or unethical stuff that they're doing with genes, but the gene therapy stuff is amazing, and it's saving lives and it's helping people. So to be on that cutting edge science is really, really exciting for me. And I love it, and I'm involved in policy, and it's just been a great career. But getting back to how I was inspired by nature, and I was inspired by science itself as a kid. I played with ants, and I just was fascinated by everything, just to me, it was just amazing and wondrous, and the human body and all that. So getting into the life sciences just was automatic for me. There were obstacles because I went to parochial grade school in a small town. And so science was like not the forte of that school, and my grammar skills were excellent when I got out. And I have to say though, I'm grateful for that, because when you're a scientist, you also have to know how to communicate. We need to translate the science. So that was good, but the bad thing was I was a year behind in science when I got to high school, because the high school allowed the public grade school kids to take high school math and science classes when they were in 8th grade, which was not an opportunity I had. I didn't have that. I didn't even know about it. So that was just like a systematic obstacle in that town, really. So I arrived at Rutgers University with no calculus background, because it just didn't factor into my high school. And that was an obstacle, because everyone else, and 200 people in my class, they all had it in high school. So that was painful. But you survive it. I mean, these obstacles are survivable. It takes some effort. I was also misguided by an advisor there to take a lot of different classes to be well-rounded, and by dropping chemistry and picking up communications, it put me an entire year behind in my major because of the prerequisites. So I got some bad advice, and I never went back to that advisor again, and that's a shame, but I graduated on time. I went to school during the summer to make up what I had to do. So those were my academic obstacles. You can get around them. There's no easy way. Like I said, it just takes effort. And the obstacles I had during my career were basically because I felt I lacked the right degree. So I had my biology degree when I was an investigator, but to be a product reviewer, I knew I needed a graduate degree. So I went back to school when I was in my early 30s to get my master's. 4 years part-time after work. And after that, I'm like, I'm surrounded by scientists, I'm the only one without a doctorate. And I told my wife, I'm like, if I go back to school, I'm gonna be 47 when I get my doctorate. And she said, you're gonna be 47 anyway. And bingo, right? So I did it, and she supported me because it wasn't all the time. It took me 6 years part-time at night, going down to Foggy Bottom to George Washington University. So I got my doctorate in public health. I love public health, I love science. And I think that, persistence, the theme lately, was a theme for me. You hit an obstacle and persist. I think I'm talking too much, I have to pass it. But, I would just say, persistence is the key, and to get a good advisor in high school and college, because that makes all the difference. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I just want to read one quote. And this is from Mae Jemison, who's the first African-American woman astronaut in space. She said, don't let anyone rob you of your imagination, your creativity, or curiosity. It's your place in the world. It's your life. Go on and do all you can do with it and make it the life that you wanted to live. And I just totally agree with that, regardless of what career anyone chooses.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us. I think this is a very important topic. We do need a woman represented in the STEM industry, the STEM fields. So I come from the STEM field from a few perspectives. My name is Lorianne Sales. I'm a council member with the Gaithersburg City Council. First African American ever elected in the history of the city. So my background's in public health, and I got a master's in public policy. And who knows, I may pursue a doctorate in public health. We'll see where my path leads me. I come from a family of caretakers and people that worked in the healthcare industry. My grandmother was a nurse. My father was a nurse after he retired from the military. My mother was a social worker. So both of those career fields impacted the woman I am today. And now my daughter is pursuing nursing and hopes to become a nurse practitioner. So I'm first generation Jamaican American, and I knew I always wanted to be in the healthcare industry. My parents said this is, the field where you're always going to find a job. And so right out of high school, I became a certified pharmacy technician. So I could work and go to school. I was a single parent at the time. And I could earn a living wage while I was pursuing my education full time. But it wasn't until my senior year of undergrad where I pursued studying abroad. I didn't go to Jamaica as a child, and so I wanted to see where my parents came from and what shaped them. So during my study abroad trip, I actually worked with a nonprofit, Jamaica AIDS Support for Life. And we studied the sexual and reproductive health of youth in Jamaica during that time. This was in 2009, and during this trip, there were about 4 different nonprofits on the island, and it was a home for the marginalized, the underserved youth, and looking at how the culture influenced increased sexual activity and the lack of understanding of sexual health among youth in that community, in that culture. And so meeting these marginalized populations, the LGBTQI populations, and seeing that the government did not protect them, didn't advocate for equal rights, I knew that when I came back home to America, that I wanted to ensure that I had an opportunity to influence policy. And so instead of pursuing an MPH, I decided to pursue a master's in public policy. And while I did that, I worked at the Schaefer Center, worked on public policy issues, and became more involved in politics as I continued my education. As soon as I graduated, much like my colleague beside me, there needs to be someone to translate the scientific jargon. And so I thought that I had a space, and I had my first job at the National Institutes of Health. I worked in the Human Genome Research Institute, and I was in charge of recruiting volunteers for all of the healthcare studies, making the flyers to ensure that people participated. And I worked specifically with African Americans in that space. And I was also simultaneously running for my first elected office while working full-time. So I had a lot on my plate, but everything ended up where it should be. I didn't win the first time, and as much of the women have said today, you need persistence in order to reach your goal, and it took me 3 tries before I was elected, so never give up. And with my own daughter, I knew that I wanted to encourage her to be whatever she wanted to be. And so I encouraged her to take advantage of programs like the Sonia Kovalevsky after-school program. It's a program for young ladies in middle school, and it happens on the weekend. And they get to do science projects. They have STEM professionals that come in and talk to them the entire day and do fun activities, robotics, and a multitude of activities to really get their minds going. There's also programs at the University of Maryland that I brought her to. Someone asked me, how's your daughter going to enjoy a physics camp? And she had the most fun experience spending the summer at the University of Maryland, learning about physics, building a roller coaster with a bunch of other girls from around the state. And so now that I'm an elected official, I'm also serving at the national level with the National League of Cities. I was recently appointed chair of the Community and Economic Development Committee. And so we are focused on, we were actually just on the Hill 2 weeks ago, advocating for infrastructure dollars and advocating for investments in career and workforce technology education. Because the infrastructure workforce is aging out, and we don't have enough in the pipeline to fulfill that industry. So focusing on careers in STEM. I know the speaker before said, you can start at any age, but in order to get your young people, especially young ladies, comfortable and excited about the industry, we have to start early. And so in Gaithersburg, we're looking at STEM in our after-school programs, and hopefully we'll be piloting a program this coming summer in the city of Gaithersburg. Thank you again for having me. I look forward to answering your questions.
Again, thank you for asking me to join this wonderful conference and be.
Say your name.
Yeah. My name is Najat Arafat Khalil. So this is the pronunciation here, but if I'm gonna say it in Arabic, it's Najat Arafat Khalil. So I was asked to speak about my passion for 2 subjects, physics and women's issue. I spent over 50 years of my life trying to the best of my ability, to satisfy my passion for both. I am the youngest of 11 children. I come from a family who are all with university degrees in mathematics, medicine, engineering, and science. When I came to the United States in 1962, I had just graduated from college. I got my bachelor's degree in Cairo, Egypt, and I had a Fulbright scholarship to get a master's degree in physics at Ohio State University. My first year of classes, I found out I'm the only female in the whole class. 18 students, male, and I'm the only female in every class that I took. And they looked at me like as if I didn't belong or I have played. First I thought, okay, maybe my name is funny or strange to them. I have an accent, and maybe I even look different. You can imagine that was 1962. There was no internet, no Facebook, and no CNN. So the knowledge, the universal or international knowledge was missing. But when I was treated this way, like I would come to class and I would sit in a row, and any row I sit in, I kept changing rows of chairs. Nobody would come and sit next to me or in the same row. If I asked one of my classmates, would you have time that we could review the homework together, he'll find 10 excuses to say no for me. So I decided, okay, it is my turn to really prove to them what can I do. So I really studied so hard, solved every problem in the book. I worked so hard to really understand the courses, although I had the little difficulty of language, but I was so happy to see the professor coming every time and saying, well, again, our only female got the highest grade for the course. Asking me if I did the homework. So that was the first obstacle that I kind of overcome while getting my master's. The second one was when I started writing my thesis and I wanted to do the experiment. My advisor took me to the lab, showed me the reactor, and explained the experiment I'm going to do. We discussed that, and he said he will give me a small stipend as a research assistant to help me, and I was very happy. I needed the money. The next day I went to the lab so happy that I'm starting to work, and I was told that the head of the lab wants to see me. And I went there, he said, well, sorry, that was a mistake, we don't have a budget to give you any money, but you could still do your experiment. While I was feeling sorry for myself, he just asked me, by the way, what do you want to study nuclear physics anyway? Apparently he didn't like my answer, and he started giving me the hardest time. He would give me the graveyard shift to do my experiment. We were 5 students doing masters and 2 doing PhDs using the same reactor. But I was the only one who was given that shift, and I was the only one who was asked to give a bi-weekly progress report. To get to the lab, being a nuclear reactor, was on the outskirts of town. And the only way to get there is to use a shuttle that moved from the main campus to the lab, and it stops at 6 p.m. So I had to go to the lab at 6 p.m., wait in an office with all the other students till my shift at midnight, till 8, then go back at 8 o'clock, buy the shuttle to main campus, then walk it to my apartment. But all that did not really stop me, because I knew I had a goal and I want to achieve it, and I want to show everybody that I can do it. And I started my PhD after that. I went to Texas A&M, then to North Texas State University, and I wanted everyone to know that with my perseverance and I was not discouraged by all these difficulties. In 1974, I got my PhD in nuclear physics from North Texas State University, and it happened I was the first woman in the state of Texas to get such a degree. I don't want to make it like a drama for me, the difficulties I had getting my PhD were also very hard, and it had to do with when we started, after the master's I got married, and then we moved to go to Texas A&M, my husband and I. We registered for PhDs, both of us at the same time. In a year and a half he got his PhD, I got the baby. So this kind of really delayed me in a few years, because also my husband has to get a job back in his country, and I stayed here to finish my PhD. Our son was with him. So I passed through all the difficulties you could think of in terms of being separated from my 6-year-old son and my husband, and staying alone in Texas to do my PhD, which I couldn't take it for a while. I had to leave for a whole year and to be with my son, then came back after a year to finish my PhD, my research, which also was another problem because the professor changed the lab. Anyway, the thing is that, and this is to say for all the young ladies who are planning to study science, don't give up. You know, if you put your mind to it, it will happen. In addition, you know, I mean, because like I said, talking about women issues, I never gave up on really also doing, you know, working with women organizations. So I had positions with many of the Arab American Women Association, like currently we have a National Arab American Women Association. I'm the chairwoman of the board of directors, and I do lots of projects with them. Also, with a grant from the State Department, Office of Education and Cultural Affairs, I got a grant when I was president of another women organization to do leadership training for women in 6 Arab countries, and that was, you know, part of my work for women issues. And thank you very much.
Wow, hi, I'm Barbara Brookmeyer. I work here in Frederick County. I'm the director of the Frederick County Health Department and officially appointed as the health officer for Frederick County, Maryland. So I started my STEM career, I can't really say why, I know when it was, when I became interested in the sciences. It was 8th grade. I'm not sure if it was because of the subject matter that year. Maybe it was a student teacher who was really cute. Maybe it was because my best friend was in my class. So I don't know why it's, you know, why science sparked with me in 8th grade. Maybe it was the field trips that we could do. But by then, I knew in high school then that I was going to pursue sciences. And so for how I then picked college, I actually went to, back when there wasn't the internet, went to the big book of careers, opened it up, closed my eyes, pointed down, and it said pharmacology, you know, learn how, you know, medicines can help people. And it said, see also toxicology, so I flipped to toxicology, and it said, study the adverse effects of chemicals on living organisms. I'm like, yeah, okay. And there were 3 universities that had it at a bachelor's level, and so I applied to 2 of those because they were on the East Coast. They both offered internship opportunities. One was one internship a year for a month, and then the other one was a 6-month internship, so I selected the 6-month one, figuring more time was better. And I can't say how great that really was. It was terrific. And, you know, I was fortunate that I had a good public education. I didn't have calculus in my undergraduate, in high school, but I certainly had calculus and physics with calculus in college. So what I would say then, so when I was in my science curriculum, it was a set curriculum, so I studied toxicology. And I think then that's because I thought, yes, I want the change I want to make is I want to make a difference in the environment. I didn't know anybody who was a toxicologist. No one in my family was in science. Maybe I also went into science as rebellion. The whole college, it was not easy, so financially for college, and then I went on to medical school. So what I can say is I was fortunate that during the time that I went to medical school then, that Reagan had just gotten out of office, so the Treasury bill rate wasn't as high anymore, and so that the student loans were more affordable at that time, and I lived in the state of Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania State also subsidized the federal student loans for health education. While they were known as high interest loans, Pennsylvania had one of the better deals. So I had planned to go in science and toxicology. Everybody at my school, it was really geared toward going on to get a PhD. So I volunteered. So my one recommendation is to try to get as many exposures to possible jobs and types of ways that people are working in that field. So I worked in a laboratory, did really amazing, exciting science work, but I knew that I didn't want to work doing benchwork chemistry. At the time, Western blots were coming out. The chemicals are neurotoxins. I didn't really want to work with them. And then in my internship, I worked with animals, and then I realized that also was not for me. I like animals, but it just wasn't wasn't going to work for me. And then coincidentally, a friend of mine had always wanted to go to medical school, was applying to take the medical school entrance exam test. And I thought, oh, why not do it? Because I don't want to be 30 and find myself at age 30 regretting having not taken the exam, because that's when I thought 30 was old. So I took the exam and I did fairly well, and by then I was realizing, okay, I don't want to do the benchwork chemistry, I don't want to work with the animals in the lab, so I applied to medical schools, and then I went to medical school, and like I said, I was able to benefit from the student loans. Now, I mean, it did mean, so back in the 80s, my tuition there was $20,000 a year, and so 20,000. So it also meant, though, I didn't have money for books. So, you know, it is nowadays, I suppose, I hear that it's still just as expensive, but it is difficult financially. So with the medical school, being able to pay the debt, it is difficult. And so actually during my first year of medical school, I wasn't liking it so much, but I realized at that point I already had $20,000 in debt that racked up. Now, when I had just finished my 6-month internship in a pharmaceutical company, my annualized salary would have been $24,000. And my stepfather, who the highest he had gone in school was 6th grade, at his retirement age, the most he ever made in a year was $24,000. So even though with just a college degree I could make the same amount that it took him his whole life to do, I knew I couldn't do it. It just seemed like an insurmountable debt to try to repay. So I continued with medical school, but what I also discovered at the same time was working with the community and really trying to identify what problems do people have where they are in their everyday life, and how can we bring together people to help relieve the suffering and help people get over the challenges. And eventually that led me to also get a master's in public health. And then I knew to pay off my medical school debt, I needed to practice as a physician, so then I became board certified. I did a family medicine residency, became board certified in family medicine, and it goes on from there. But what I would say, so in public health, so the focus of public health is focusing on populations, making them healthy and well. So in Frederick County, our vision at the Frederick County Health Department is Frederick County leads as a community of health and wellness. And our mission is we do that by preventing, promoting, and preventing health and wellness, preventing disease and illness, promoting health and wellness, and protecting the public's health. The great thing is that no matter what you do, just like the NASA scientist had said, so if you go into the health professions, that helps. If you have just a high school degree, you can work in public health. If you have a bachelor's degree, you can do that. If your degree is in accounting, if it's in marketing, if it's in IT, if you're interested in housing. So no matter what you're interested in, public health, we need you at the table. And I would say for all of you out there, so whether you're looking for a first career, a second career, retirement career, or volunteering, we can benefit from your experience, your knowledge, your wisdom, your abilities in public health. So please take advantage of all opportunities that are out there. And for those of you who are looking at figuring out what you want to do with your life, I wouldn't focus so much what's the career you want, what's the profession, but instead what's the change that you want, and then you'll be able to find out how you can make that change happen.
Nevertheless, she persisted.